Welcome, everybody, to our last podcast of Lowdown on Low Code for 2025. And we've got a good one here for you on our Christmas episode. Excited to bring OutSystems back on the show. I'm here with John Rymer, my often co-host on the show. How are you, John?
Merry Christmas, Rob. Great to be on Lowdown on Low Code once again.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy
Happy
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Happy holidays.
If it's not
Happy
entirely
holidays.
clear.
Anyway, happy holidays, everyone.
So what do we got today, John?
So I'm really excited about this episode. Today we are joined by Gonçalo Borrêga, an EVP of OutSystems. Gonçalo, you and I met a long time ago, and those of you who follow me on LinkedIn will know that I really respect people and really, really admire people who can combine vision with pragmatism. And Gonçalo, you've always been top of my list in terms of those things. Those two qualities. So thank you for joining us today. We're really thrilled to have you.
No, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Happy holidays for everyone. Yes, we go a long way back. I think driven by similar passions and more than vision or pragmatism. I think that willingness to solve some interesting problems is really what connected us in the very beginning and kept us in the same paths.
Right. Gonçalo, you and I hadn't seen each other for quite a while, and we reacquainted at OutSystems 1 in Lisbon during late September, early October, and I was really impressed by a session you gave about AI as a pragmatic set of technologies to solve business problems, and so that's what we want to get into today. And thanks for joining us to continue the discussion. So, Rob, why don't we start where we always start?
We're gonna get to that AI thing, is all, I promise. But where we always like to start is it's just fascinating how people come to this industry and come to this area in particular. Paulo Rosado, by the way, was on the podcast a while back for our audience. If you didn't get a chance to listen to Paulo, great companion piece to listen to with Gonçalo. But Paulo had a great backstory. So you got to beat that, Gonçalo. How did you end up here? What brought you to this place?
Yeah, I would say that I actually came back twice. So I've been with OutSystems early on, back in 2008. Back then, it was really on, we want to automate what we do. We want to deliver more software. We want to do it faster. We want to not spend so much time doing things that are not fun in the craft of building software. That's what got me here the first time. Back then, low code was not even a term, as you all know very, very well. But we were looking to simplify things, right? To look for common patterns, to abstract those patterns, to get them into kind of like a canvas that everybody was able to benefit from the standardization and acceleration that we would be able to provide. That got us going through many, many years. The value proposition is still there, keeps on delivering on its promise. And that's really the pragmatic view of how we see low code, OutSystems in particular. So I left a few years back, just before COVID. Pretty great time to start a company, but we were actually able to build some software using OutSystems. We built a software as a service for a completely different industry. But with AI really accelerating things and so on, I felt I really missed not only the family, right, that we have here at this company and so on. That this company gets you really with a lot of passion behind the mission, but also the big opportunity that AI now brings to accelerate this mission even further. So I've been back and I keep having the same mission, right? So accelerating, solving people's problems, allowing them to keep their creativity as they build software, but in the context that we know that is very, very complex, which is the enterprise software development, right? That brings a lot of requirements, a lot of challenges, but those are the tough and interesting problems to solve.
Great to have you back, Gonçalo. John, over to you.
So, Gonçalo, in your session at OutSystems 1, you talked about 6 reasons that enterprises are failing to capitalize on the opportunity that AI presents. Can you run through those for us, please? What are those 6 reasons?
Yeah, sure. And those 6 reasons came out of, well, some of them we kind of like out of talking to customers, out of talking to CIOs and app dev teams. They were kind of like popping into those conversations. And then we did a research through thousands of people, and they came up with this. And this started with, for instance, first one is AI sprawl. Companies are like with any technology, they're building it with pieces, looking to find different tools for different purposes and so on. So marketing is gonna be using one in a given way. AI teams are trying to put up and build these multiple tools together as well. For different business processes, you might use one or the other. It doesn't help that every software company in the world is adding AI to it. So it creates another layer of not only value, but also complexity in managing those tools. So this sprawl of different AI tools was one of them that in the end, if you want to deliver, it deaccelerates you, having to put it all together, different programs to adopt them and so on. The other one was really about the opaqueness of the decisions that are done by AI. And so it's great that you have AI helping with that, but this is very linked to the sixth one, which is the lack of accountability over those decisions. An enterprise cannot just rely on an opaque decision that might break a business process down the line, and they cannot rely on this decision to be owned by an AI model, right? So departments, people in those departments, they still need to own that decision-making process, for instance, to approve a loan or to fulfill a given process or to extract some outcomes from that process. This needs to be owned by people. So the lack of accountability and the opaqueness of the decision-making in the AI models is one of them. So some techniques to break the models, break agents into multiple pieces so that you can have a little bit more visibility and control are in place, but still it's one of the reasons why a fully autonomous agent never gets to production in an enterprise, right? Enterprises need to have that control, need to have that accountability, need to have that visibility and transparency over the decision making. So the other one is on the human effort that actually goes into trying to solve for those use cases. So if you don't if you don't break the decision-making process, if you don't ensure that you have visibility over what's going on, there's a lot of time going back to troubleshoot what went wrong, because you only get to see it too far ahead. Looking into this in terms of like, how do we break down the process? How do we ensure that people are able to understand what's going on? If it fails, let's fail fast and let's look into how can we still continue that process. That reduces the human effort that goes into troubleshooting. The last one, it's security, the security risk that you now get by basically opening up a lot of your data to AI. And AI is non-deterministic. So whatever data you give it access to, it might hallucinate, it might overcome, for instance, some identity that you told the AI to kind of like use. And it can access different data than the one that was originally controlled in that environment. So the lack of being able, the challenge in being able to secure that data all the way from the user request through the AI and then into the data and tools that the agents access is really a critical factor here. And if you don't control that agent is never going to get to production because no organization is going to be willing to open that data.
Right. I love the fact that this is based on research. As a researcher, we love that. It just sounds, Gonzalo, like any early stage technology, people just haven't had the time or the experience yet to really understand where things can go wrong, and they're discovering this in real time. So anyway, thanks for bringing that out. I found that to be a good way to kind of frame the problem. Rob, over to you.
So Gonzalo, we got the ODC platform. We know it, we love it, right? Been around for a long time and has provided a lot of great value. But unfortunately, low code is dead.
Low code is dead.
Low code is dead. We hear it from every chucklehead on LinkedIn that loves a catchphrase that has no idea what they're talking about. But we hear it in some form or another from a lot of people for whom we have a great deal of respect. You guys have deeply embraced vibe coding as part of a development paradigm. How is this going to change things? How is it going to change how we think about low code development?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I don't think low code is dead, or
No, we don't think
at least
so either.
the fundamentals. Yeah, I know, but I worry that we go to like these terms that have a lot behind it without going into the details of what do we believe is changing, what do we believe the new technology is going to enable, and what are some of the first principles behind low code that are not going to be that. I mean, not today, not ever, because they are first principles, right? They remain there. And some of them that I tend to stick to is around abstraction and the ability to extend those abstractions. And in those abstractions, we go back to models. I mean, you talk a lot. I hear the podcast all the time. We talk a lot about model. I think one of the key aspects that we now have, and we'll get to vibe in a minute, but one of the key aspects that we have in models is really that they describe business semantics a lot better than code, right? So the better model you have, the better descriptive and the better aligned to the business construct. So in your organization that you have it, the better AI is going to be able to understand it more than what's hidden behind code, right? It can do that with much less tokens used, right? So it can explore an entire portfolio of software without having to explore millions of lines of code because all those constructs are there. Plus, it's much more descriptive, right? So you get with low code, with models, with that context, that is the enterprise context, you get the AI to map the intent that a user provides when we get to vibe coding, right? So what's my vibe? What do I want the application to do? How do I describe in natural language the constructs that I have in my organization, in my process, in my security relationships, whatever? How do I describe them? If you have a model that already has that business semantic very well described, the match is much better. Right. So, I mean, part of the reason why I came is that I see the big advantage that what a low-code platforms, if they have this really strong model built into them, they can provide this additional layer. It's a big opportunity to make AI much better. Now, AI can also produce code, right? Really well nowadays, and it's going to get better and better and better, right? And we make use of that as well, right? So with low code, you always think that it's not just about the abstractions, it's not just about the composability and the assemblage of the multiple pieces that you have in your software portfolio. It's also about being able to extend it when those abstractions do not deliver on your particular needs. Right? So you need to have extensibility across all layers of the stack, front end in JavaScript and the back end with whatever language that you have there. Those are the best ways to extend it. Now, AI also delivers value there because in that when you do extensibility, you kind of like constrain the context that is required because it's going to be self-contained. Either, for instance, an integration or a component or a very specific algorithm, right? And the AI is very good in generating code without requiring the full context. So you actually get the best of both, right? You get AI to generate code that is contained, that doesn't require a lot of context that goes beyond that piece of code. And you get AI to operate at a higher level of abstraction, which is the business level of abstraction. So then you get the intent of the users to actually map really much better to, for instance, information that is coming from SAP, where it's not about the name of the column in German that you have in SAP. It's about the metadata that really means that this is an invoice for that particular business unit. And you get AI to actually generate a model with the full breadth of business semantics that is described in that model. So it's a multiplying effect that AI can have. In this particular, I don't know, it's a design principle behind low code, right? The abstractions plus the extensibility.
plus the model, right? It's 'tis the season. Every time a bell rings, an angel
Yeah.
gets his wings. And every time you mention model, our colleague Francis Carden gets really happy. And if you'd like to engage with us a little more with John, myself, with our colleague Francis Carden or Dave Marcus, Rick Greenwald, Andy Bartels, hit us up at analysis.tech. Lowdown on Low Code is brought to you by analysis.tech. That's all you need to do to find us. All our research is free with an email sign up. John, back over to you.
Gonçalo, OutSystems has always been devoted to empowering pro developers. When I was at the OutSystems One conference, that's who was there. There were a lot of managers, but there were a lot of people that they build apps for a living and they're using low code to do it. Do you think that AI will allow more involvement by business people, more direct involvement by business people in creating these applications? This is something that OutSystems has never really focused on because you didn't want to lose focus. But do you think that AI is going to allow you to address a broader audience and start to bring business people more directly into the projects?
Yeah. So I do. I think there's always going to be a wide range of skill set of systems thinking in multiple personas within the business, right? So you can have a business user that understands business rules really, really well, that understands their business really, really well. But it gets to a point where to deliver enterprise software, you need to have critical capabilities in terms of system thinking, in terms of reusability, in terms of architecture, in terms of how to fine tune performance intensive requirements. So I still believe that AI is going to be able to help across the broad range of personas in the different micro use cases where they participate in the software development lifecycle. Now, is this going to augment a lot the participation of a business user, for instance, in the beginning part of the process where you're trying to describe requirements, you don't have a clue on how to get started because you didn't know how to code? Can it help them? 100%, right? Can it help them deliver, maintain an application that is relatively simple, that they will be able to maintain and evolve on themselves, for instance, at the departmental level and so on? Definitely, low code already helps a lot with that. With AI, it's even going to be easier. What I really think that AI and specifically low-code platforms or working with the model is going to help with is in this translation, right? So what I believe that AI is not going to help with is help a business user start this process and then hope then some AI or some IT professional developer is going to pick on this application and be able to maintain it as easily as if they had created it themselves, right? Because if then you need to troubleshoot, then and AI can help there. You can go to code, understand what's there, and so on. But you need to deconstruct a lot of context decisions that were put into that, right? So, and I think that's also where low code actually helps, because if AI helps you generate model, the knowledge transfer is still there as it used to be, right? So both professional developers that are using OutSystems, for instance, they use a visual language to understand the business rules, to define their business rules and so on. They don't look into, is the code correct? Do I have all the security NFRs in all the code? Do I have monitoring built into the code and so on? No, they use the same language, which is visual, is model, to communicate and to understand whether things are correct or wrong from a business perspective. So yes, this is going to broaden the set of applications that business users are going to be able to deliver end to end and to maintain end to end. It's going to also help collaborate between business users and IT users, because AI can help them understand and facilitate the knowledge transfer between multiple people. And so a lot of advantages there. I believe everyone is going to play their role as until now.
Excellent. That is just so clear. Rob.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I mean, if I want to just sort of kind of paint the landscape, low code is used to address a lot of different types of business problems out there in the world, right? But OutSystems has always lived in the large enterprise with the most mission critical applications, right? It's not all you do, but It's what you're known for. It's what you do really well. Core enterprise data is extraordinarily important in those scenarios. It becomes more important as we move into the era of AI. You guys have been at this for a long time. How should our audience be thinking about the way they set up for this around core data and the type of investments that they're likely to make in order to really, really exploit this moment?
Yeah. So I think we go back a little bit to how you do the knowledge graph or the information graph, the model of all the data, all the systems, all the integrations and APIs that you have and that you need to manage as an organization, right? So the way to look into this is really that a lot of the core difference that you can get with AI, because nowadays everybody can build an agent, everybody can use AI to deliver on a given use case. The big difference is how you prepare the data to give it to that agent, to that LLM to process, right? So there's a lot of context that needs to be managed. And if we go a little bit deeper, maybe we don't have time in this session, but if we go a little bit deeper in how you manage that context, in how you synthesize past learnings to give it back to the new iteration of the agent, how do you give it a more fine-grained context, pieces of data so that the agent can make better decisions without hallucinating a little bit across all of that data? Managing that context, managing that data is critical, right? So whatever constructs you have to, one, manage all the metadata, the descriptions, again, the business semantics that you have, you should put in place, right? You should govern that data layer to make sure that the business semantics of all those pieces of data are there. The other bit is how do you flow this data, make it context that you can field the agentic layers that you put on top, the applications that you put on top as well, but specifically for the usage of AI. How do you manage that data? How do you process that data? And this process needs to be very simple. It can be abstracted a little bit, but the process of getting the right data to the right agent, to the agent at that particular time is an interesting process that I believe is going to define a lot of what is really the professional development that is going to happen in the coming years. Right? The knowing how to prepare that context, knowing how to filter the right context, secure that data as you give it to the agents. So this is a combination of both how you model it, how you maintain it, how you manage that portfolio of data, plus how do you process it and give it to each execution of the multiple agents that you're going to have around.
John?
So should people be focused on knowledge graphs, Gonzalo? Is that kind of a touchstone that people can rally around to handle this set of requirements?
I think it's a piece of it. Knowledge graphs are kind of like the business semantics, how you organize that data. Remember that it's not just the knowledge, it's also the transactional systems, because a lot of that knowledge is behind the transactional system. And specifically with a lot of agentic systems, they need to operate in real time. So part of that knowledge graph is actually the code graph or the systems graph that needs to reflect also what's behind that transactional system. So we're not in the world where it's either information, unstructured information, or analytical data that goes into a data lake and that is ready to be processed. No, we want to build these agentic systems on top of real-time transactional systems and software as a service that holds the data, right? So all of this needs to be managed under single knowledge graph. The caveat is that the knowledge is just not stale information. It's really living systems that need to be in that graph.
Right. That's excellent. And thank you for not using the word ontology as you answered that question. So one of the things you highlighted was early on in discussing AI was that there's extent that AI could be the basis for extensibility of the models in a low code platform. There is an idea that our friend and former colleague John Bratton Sevick wrote about years ago of the AppGen platform. This is a single platform that handles low code development, but also also serves coders and a single base. But we are starting to see some examples of that. What's your attitude about that, Gonzalo? Is this something real? Is this somewhere that OutSystems will go?
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense. To give you a little bit of context, we've always thought that code plays an important part of this type of platforms, right? Not just for extensibility, but as you bring pieces from different ecosystems inside, it also plays a part. As you, for instance, try to modernize legacy code and you want to transform it to more modern applications, maybe you don't need to do it as a big bang. Maybe you can keep running pieces of code that are stable, that are, they describe the requirements as they are. And then you can build other pieces on top, front ends that are a little bit more modern. For example, agents that work on top of those algorithms as well as tools that they can use. So code does take a big part on this. And as I was mentioning before, now that AI can actually operate very, very well over those contained pieces of code, the maintainability aspect of keeping that code reduces a lot, right? So that equation shifts a little bit, and you can actually have code in these, let's call it app-sharing platforms or whatever we want to call them, but code living side by side with model, living side by side with APIs and everything, it makes sense as long as they are managed, right? So as long as they belong in that knowledge graph, as long as you know what's inside, and from a governance perspective, you can manage it and maintain it without overhead as the other pieces.
Yeah. Thank you. That's awesome. Rob.
So as we're kind of getting ready to head out for the holidays here, here's the thing about new technology, which this is actually what I love most about it, and have always loved most about it, is we don't really know where people are going to take it, right? They always take it someplace that's super cool that you didn't necessarily expect. So 'tis the season. What's the coolest thing you've seen that people have done with AI that maybe people just didn't expect?
Yeah. So I keep going back and being impressed with this one customer. So is from the US, big bank in the US, and they were one of our first early access customers for Agent Workbench, which is our capability to build agents. The first use case was really simple. Let's get this agent to look into the platform logs to understand where are the errors and so on, consolidate them and prioritize them so that I can solve errors that are important for the business. That was the first use case. This was maybe 4 months ago or so. Last month, I spoke to them and they basically built an entire factory for legacy modernization with agents that go and fetch legacy applications that they have in many different technologies. They extract business requirements from those. They put them into a business process that get people to look into their business requirements and validate that those actually reflect. They generate and break down user stories out of those requirements, and they get those to be app-gen with AI into a modern application. And they built this platform themselves, right? So we are thinking about agents that deliver particular business processes or make particular decisions. This customer basically set up an entire software factory with agents that are doing from understanding code to generating new code to generating tests for the business users to validate the requirements. And they're modernizing their entire core banking via this process with agents that they built themselves. So it's kind of like we get a lot of these tech enthusiasts that sometimes use technology to build technology to help them on their daily work. And we keep getting this type of enthusiasts about automating more and more and more. So going back to the ROI of AI.
So that's pretty cool. All right. So John, take us into the holidays.
So Gonçalo, this has been exceeded my expectations for our conversation. Thank you so much. You've really helping a lot of people by sharing your experiences, and we in the community really appreciate it. We look forward to staying in touch with you because obviously you're driving some really great ideas into OutSystems. Have a happy, healthy, fun
Thank you.
holiday, my friend, and
Yeah.
thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's great to be here. It's great to be part of this community. I think our paths are still going to cross many times. Holidays to everyone. And it was really fun to be here, as always, to be with you.